Welcome to Coast to Coast. My name is Jeremy Whitney, and this is Ed Beaulieu. Over here to the left, to the right, whichever side he is on. Today we're going to be going over our our edge rushing class, how we feel about the edge rushers for 2023 ahead of draft season. Yeah, take it away, Ed.
Very excited about this one. So we'll launch into our top fives here. I'll take it away. So we've got, let's see, I've got here for my number five. I got Mike Morris from Michigan. Nice, big, nice size, jumbo edge, if you will. Basically looks like an offensive
He's quite
tackle.
large.
I mean, he's just a big human being. But he's crazy fast for his size, which I really liked. Agile. He's really good in space, too, which I liked, which I was really surprised with, too, coming in, because I kind of thought he was going to be one of those guys that was just, big hulking guy that wasn't really good at, the change direction. But he really held up in space, which I liked. And, he uses his length and that size really well, which is good. Because I wasn't super familiar with him coming in. I'd watched a little bit of Michigan from them playing Ohio State because I'd seen both of those games, but he didn't stand out to me then, probably because of his size, because I probably wasn't paying attention to him because I thought he was just a big sack of potatoes. But he was surprisingly athletic for his size.
Yeah, it's he's a stud and unfortunately for him, Michigan just has a lot of talent because they have a couple other guys on that defensive line as well, and it's kind of the Georgia conundrum. It's a good problem to have, but it's unfortunate for these guys because they don't get the necessary reps as some of the the Will Anderson. He's not coming off the field rarely, if ever. You know what I mean?
Right.
Or even with Georgia, you're not taking Jalen Carter off the but unfortunately for these guys, Mike Morris, Van Ness was another guy. Who else? There was a handful of guys that for whatever reason just didn't play as much as they should have.
Right.
Because honestly, I completely agree with you, dude. Mike Morris, wasn't too familiar with him as well. He moves pretty fucking good for how big he is. He's a great power rusher, obviously, because him being so hot, so tall. He's pretty good with leverage, leverage wise. He knows how to use his hands well. It's violent. He's strong at the point of the attack. He takes. I saw him. There were a couple times where he took on some pullers and delivered a pretty good pop and stopped them in their tracks. So that's all you kind of can really ask for. I completely agree with you. He, however, is not my number five. But you can't really argue with what you said. And he's huge. He's 6'6", 270,
Right.
and for him to move that way, he may not test crazy, but watch the tape. The kid's fluid in his movements. He's an enormous human being. But as far as my number five, I got Nolan Smith from Georgia. Really, really impressive. Just as far as he's a great first step, which a lot of this class, as far as get-offs go, they got Will Anderson, obviously, OJULARI. It's McDonald. There's some explosiveness in the get-off, but Nolan Smith, what I liked about him is he I think it was in the Auburn game. He kind of set up the tackle, jabbed inside, and then went outside. And then later in the game, switched it up and did the opposite to keep the tackle on his toes. And at both times, it worked very well. That just shows that he's like progressed in obviously his pass rushing, like to know and lead that. Like that's why he did that later on in the game. You know what I mean? Like, and that's just like kind of high IQ. So he looks good in coverage. Like honestly, is he going to be covering people one-on-one? No, but like dropping into a zone, like completely capable. He's fluid there. I mean his hands, you can see he's always working, trying to get the upper hand with the offensive linemen. But I mean, you can't. There's a lot of different guys in this class that we're obviously going to go over. That it's, I mean, it's a preference thing, right? So, but yeah, no one's right or wrong. Honestly, like no one.
Right. I mean, I agree with you on on Smith. I don't have him in my top 5, but he's just outside it. And I like the fact that he is versatile. He's the one big negative I had of him was just that he's small. He's undersized, which, is obviously going to be one of those things that needs to be figured out when he gets to the NFL. But I mean, he was one of the most well-rounded outside of Anderson of all the guys on this list, even though I don't have him in my top 5, but it's just because of the size thing. But I mean, he checks every box. I mean, he's obviously like super quick off the line. He's great sideline to sideline tackling. He really tracks the ball carrier well. He's one of those guys that can kind of do it all. Like you said, he's halfway decent in coverage. And for a guy that is below average in size, he was really good against the run from the games that I watched. They were against significant programs. It wasn't like he was getting pushed around for a guy his size.
Yeah, he had one run plan specifically that I think was in the Auburn game, and he just like obviously he needs to figure out different ways because he's not always gonna, like you said, he's not the biggest edge rusher or the heaviest, I should say. Which is fine because he has a move to where he'll sidestep he'll essentially olay the offensive lineman, and it works just fine because he got the TFL. But on an NFL offensive lineman, NFL tackles, pulling guards in the NFL, like this size definitely makes sense. So again, like I said, This is just how I feel about it, how you feel about it. Like, no one's right or wrong here. Or I guess we'll find out in, 5 years, just to be safe.
Yeah, exactly.
But
when we all
until then, one more time, sorry.
I said when we all forget about it.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know, dude. I'm going to keep these receipts. I'm keeping my top 10. See how accurate I was. Just kidding.
It's going to be on the internet forever, so we'll have it there to jump back into.
So
number 4, I have a guy that you have a little bit higher on your list, I believe, which is Tyree Wilson, who's a guy that's probably a little bit more of a project than I expected from a guy that's so highly rated for a lot of these professional analysts. I see why. I'm not saying it is a bad thing.
Yeah.
Because he's got an insane frame. He's honestly the longest edge I've seen, and I don't know how many years. He's just ridiculous. Just the length that he has, along with the size that he's got. And I mean, his movement is ridiculous for his size too. I mean, he's 275, and he definitely gets around. He's always attacking. Seems to be very coachable, which I noticed in some of those games, and he's another one of those guys that's super versatile. I did notice that he seemed a little bit more fast than explosive. Obviously, that's something that can kind of be worked out a little bit, but he doesn't really have a great first step for a guy that's as old as he is for some of these project guys. These project guys are usually like 20, 21. This, he's 23 at this point. So there was that. I know we talked about this when we watched a couple of games. He just seems kind of lost at times when stuff breaks down.
Yeah.
He's one of those guys, like, he's like a Jadeveon Clowney or, some of these other guys like that just kind of, you see them standing there with their hands on their hips at some point in the play when they don't really know what to do with themselves. Because they just kind of get moving in one direction and then they don't really know where to go from there, which I kind of noticed in a lot of his games that I watched where he got like that, where it was just like stuff broke down and he didn't like, I don't know if it's because of his size. He doesn't want to get in the way of the other defenders, but it seemed like he was just kind of like standing around waiting for somebody else to make a play.
Yeah.
If it wasn't a sack.
And that's something that, like, unfortunately for him can be mistaken as like laziness. You know what I mean? Like maybe he just doesn't, like, there's a multitude of reasons. My initial reaction was like, oh, like, why isn't he hustling? Because there's other guys in this class that are like, if you like 100% balls to your boy McDonald, like he hustles 110 miles an hour just the whole time.
Sure.
Ojulari is another guy. Obviously Anderson. It's the low-hanging fruit there. Fucking Lucas Van Ness. Like all these guys. There's a lot of high motor, high energy guys. So I definitely agree with you. But I also agree with you on everything else. Like, he's a bull in a china shop. He's great in a straight line. Yeah, he's not going to have the best bend, but that's also because he's 6'6", 275. Like, Myles Garrett don't grow on trees. And maybe it's something that he can... Well, they sure do. Maybe that's something that he can work on, but he is violent when taking on pulling guards or any... That poor lineman coming in there trying to make a block on the back, like, and then, I mean, he's fluid. He's not bad moving around in zones either. Like, I don't know why they decided to drop him in coverage at times, but I mean, I
think they were just hoping because of his length that they could just get away with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But he has a good feel for it, man. I mean, as good of a feel a 6'6", 275-pound human being, could possibly have. So I don't know if anyone in the NFL is going to be dropping him into the flats or anything, or
I doubt it.
But I mean, everything else is just and like, obviously he's not the most polished guy. He's a project, but he's probably going to be one of those guys that are going to be a Trayvon Walker-esque. I mean, Daniel Jeremiah had him going number 3 overall to the Arizona Cardinals, which wouldn't shock me. It wouldn't be my pick. And
no, it wouldn't.
No, you feel. But I can completely agree. He's my number 3. So we just went over that for there. And completely agree. Him being in the top 5, you kind of can't keep him out, unfortunately, for a lot of those other guys. The guys 6 through 10 that we have. But my number 4 is Lucas Van Ness, which it is a war crime how they didn't start him and how much they used him on the interior. Not that he isn't an asset on the interior, but he's not an asset the majority of the time spent there. Like, let the kid move around. He at the next level, if he gets the right defensive coordinator, he is going to be, the low-hanging fruit would be Karlaftis, obviously, who came out last year. He's got a great bull rush. He does need more than just a good bull rush. He's got a long arm too, that I saw a couple times, but also he doesn't have opportunities to rush from the outside. and he's not bad
Right.
from rushing on the inside either. Honestly,
No.
like he's really not bad inside
Yeah.
or outside. Again, I just wouldn't have him there. I just wouldn't have him there the whole time. Like the Iowa defense, and I understand, I get it. It's like prestigious. The seniors only get to start and all this type of stuff. But like, you're never going to win a national championship with that ideal, unfortunately. And like, it's admirable that they just. But I mean, it was a war crime that Lucas Van Ness wasn't on the field more. He's again like, and he's also an asset in special teams, dude. He balled, which I guess him not being a senior is good. Leverage. I really liked him, and that's why I had him at 4, because there's not much, like, I get why he's flying up draft boards. Tyree Wilson, I 3, as Daniel Jeremiah had in his mock. It's not, he even said it's not his, but like he could see that happening. It's a little rich for my blood, and I mean, maybe a GM, especially because he's going to go crazy at the combine. But Lucas Van Ness is my number 4. Because
I think the other thing with Van Ness too, with him being so low coming out too, I think it was because nobody expected him to declare either.
Yeah.
And he kind of declared pretty late. So I think everybody kind of had him off the board to start the whole process. So he was one of those guys that just wasn't really being, considered. So they weren't like breaking him down. They weren't getting him into the rotation for different lists, different mocks.
Yeah.
And, so he's still kind of really low because of that. So I think he's a guy, like you said, that's going to rise not only because of his game tape, because when he's not misused or kept off the field, he's flashed a lot. Yeah. And then I think the combine's only going to help him with that, because he's, going to show some of those things there too. So it's sad that it takes stuff like that, but I think we'll start to move back up into the first where he probably belongs.
Well, and at the end of the day too, I wouldn't stay for another year. Like why
not in that situation.
You know what I mean? Like he put plenty on tape. He doesn't, in his limited roles. And it's like, I don't know. If I was him, it's either transfer somewhere else that you're going to be utilized properly. Cause he could probably go to anywhere in the country. Alabama would welcome him with open arms. You know what I mean? Anyone. Yeah. And probably be a star there, but it's either that or the NFL, and he's a first round talent, and I hope he gets drafted.
Yeah,
I mean he's special, man. He's going to be a good kid, or a good.
Honestly,
good player.
He's the only one that I could say right now. He's got the Patriots written all over him for me.
Oh yeah. No, he's a Patriot.
I can't pinpoint anybody else on this list, but he's got the Patriots written all over him.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, Will Anderson's painted in, maybe not Bears colors, but we get that. But yeah, no, could you imagine with him and Judon and Uche, with him coming on? That would be a rotation. And he's going to learn from those guys. And again, you can have him rush from the inside because he's versatile. He's good at both of them. Right. He can rush from everywhere. It's just, let's not keep him on the inside. Let's not forget that he's an edge rusher and not a nose or a fucking even a 3 commit him dude. Like let him eat from a wide 9. Just let the kid ball.
Yeah. I agree with you though. I like him a lot. I think he's gonna be probably like mid first round by the time this is all said and done. Yeah,
I think say we'll do a split the difference 14 to 20. I would be shocked if he didn't go in that range. And again, he might.
You think the Patriots are number 14?
That's funny. I mean, that would be a huge boon for Belichick. And I just don't think there's going to be anyone of value for like an offensive playmaker, and why not give Belichick another? I mean, unless they want Bijan and pair him with Stevenson, that would be nasty. But yeah, so my number 3 again was Tyree Wilson. I think we both broke him down pretty good. He's everything you said. I said a couple other things. That's it. But who do you have for your number 3?
My number 3 is your number 2. Would you like to, since he's not your number 2, would you like to jump into your guy? Since my number 2 isn't on your list.
No, I can just elaborate. You're good.
You sure?
Yeah,
I feel like you want to wax poetic about this guy.
No, I'm sure you're going to say a lot of the stuff that I'm going to say, and then obviously some more negatives than what I have. But
yeah, I probably.
But
I got love for the family. You know how I feel about his brother.
Absolutely, which is
so. My number 3 is BJ OJULARI.
Yes.
Yes. I'll start with the positives before I get to my laundry list of negatives compared to Jeremy's negatives.
Negative.
No, but
negative,
I mean, I did really like. I do really like OJULARI. I mean, the only reason he's at 3 and not at 2 is because I had such a huge man crush on my number 2.
Yeah. Yeah, you did.
I mean, he's incredibly sudden off the edge. He's got amazing bend. He turns the corner better than most in the class. And I'm saying he might even turn the corner better than Anderson at times.
Yeah.
But well, specifically, which like kind of even brings him into my top 5 is the fact that he's just the most technically sound in this class. Mm-hmm. And probably could have been in that conversation for the last class too. You know what I mean? Because there weren't a ton of guys that were this polished in last year's class either, you know, because like, I mean, you got like Thibodeau and Hutch and Walker, and none of those guys were really all that technically sound.
No.
Maybe Hutch a little bit, but not really as much as OJULARI. But I think that's the big thing for him. He's like, he'll translate out of all of these guys, I think along with Anderson, I think OJULARI will kind of translate the quickest because of that, because he's so technically sound. And, you know, he's kind of years ahead of where most guys are coming out at this point with his pass rush. You know, I think with the negatives, I think he does kind of lack power at times with certain things, specifically, you know, the run game. He gets kind of locked down a lot in the run game. Yeah. And he just kind of lacks versatility. I mean, he's just one of those guys that you're going to send out there to kind of pin his ears back and rush the passer more than anything else. You know, he's not a guy you're going to ask to drop back in coverage or really worry about the run game. He's not going to set the edge all that well. So that's really my take on him. What am I missing?
I mean, you kind of hit everything. Like first step, pretty ridiculous. He has every pass rush move in the book. You know what I mean? Like you said, his bend's nuts. His speed rushes when it's like pin your ears back time, like 3rd down, 3rd and 8, 3rd and 10. It is his speed rush is pretty crazy.
That's ridiculous.
He could disengage a little quicker. He does kind of get caught up, you know, whether it is the run or even sometimes in the pass. Mainly in the run, obviously. He doesn't lose ground. He just gets snatched at. You know what I mean? Like he'll keep his blocker at the same depth. It's just you'd like to see him, especially because he's such a refined pass rusher, use those hands to get everything, like use everything all to, like you said, being versatile. And I mean, he also has a relentless motor. Like he's one of the, like a lot of his a lot of his like really flashy plays, not a lot, I should say, but it shows up on tape. Like, there's no question that guy's running 100 miles an hour to the ball, 100 until the whistle blows. I didn't think he looked too out of place dropping into coverage. Again, would I do it? Probably not. Like, why?
Right.
Why would you have someone like that? And I really liked there in the Arkansas game. There was a couple plays back to back that he made that just, given the time, the down and distance, all this type of stuff, like, you just love to see those plays, right? Like, so obviously I'm a Ravens fan. Like, one of the most memorable plays was they were playing the Chargers. Fucking Ray Lewis shoots the gap, tackles, essentially ices the game, and it's like, that's it didn't end the game, but those are the types of plays you want to see. Like, big time players make big time plays in big time games, in big time moments. Yeah. So seeing him make some plays, but at the end of the day, I can't knock you for having that 3 because it's one spot lower than 2, and you really can't go wrong with this class. It's OJULARI. Yeah. I thought he showed a little more than in the run game than obviously you did, but I just think he's going to be just like his brother. He's going to give you 8.5 sacks year 1 and probably maintain that for as long as he wants to play. 10 years, you know what I mean?
And who knows, he could do like what Aziz did too, where he just like adds some mass.
Yep.
I mean, from year 1 to year 2, OJULARI got big in a hurry. So, I mean, BJ can do that too, if he wants to. I mean, not every player has to do that. That's not a requirement, obviously. They should like change what they do for the sake of changing what they do. Yeah. But, obviously if he did that could probably help him a little bit in the rush game.
Well, he can get
either way. He's going to get in the game and he's going to make an impact.
Yeah, he can get stronger. He doesn't necessarily need to get bigger, but he can get stronger. You know what I mean? And that's the thing, is that, I mean, yeah, he was at LSU, but at the end of the day, everyone says it, like an NFL training program, weightlifting, like everything is just better in most places, unless you go from like Alabama to what the Bengals used to be, or some of these, you just hear stories from ex-players that are like, not all NFL teams are created equal. There's some college programs with better facilities than some NFL teams.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But that's not the case for LSU. OJULARI, can't really say much more than we already have, honestly. So who did you have at number 2 that wasn't in my top 5?
My number 2 was Will McDonald.
Yes.
Who I know you like.
Yes.
Just didn't
I like him a lot.
Top 5, which I get.
Yeah.
I get I'm being a little bit unreasonable with this. I know it's a stretch. But I think there's a really high ceiling with McDonald, and I really think he's going to be something in a couple of years. I know we've been saying this a lot, but he's just crazy explosive. His speed is like off the charts. He was just ridiculously fast when he was pinning his ears back. And much like Nolan Smith before, we were talking about, like, he's super versatile. Like, he was doing everything out there. I know he got lost a little bit in the run game at times, but he was a willing participant. What?
No, I'm just saying you're being generous. You're being a little generous with being lost. But no, I completely agree. Go on. I interrupt. I'm being a dick.
No, that's okay.
No, I completely agree with everything you just said.
Yeah, his length stood out to me. He's great as purely an edge rusher, which was the biggest thing. Much like OJULARI, I think that'll kind of translate quickly at the next level. Obviously, with the negatives, he's still kind of skinny for his size. wasn't always fluid in certain situations. Didn't have really a great plan of attack coming off the edge. And didn't really play well off the tackles, which I think was kind of going along with the rush game. I think he kind of gets bullied a little bit at times, which is where, like we were talking about with OJULARI, I think he needs to get stronger for that, for sure, because obviously he's not going to be able to, if he's having issues with it now, he's going to have bigger issues when he gets to the pros. So all in all, I did really like the fact that he was really explosive and fast off the edge, which I think is going to translate easily because he just seems like a freak athlete, and he seems super versatile. I saw him drop into coverage a couple of times, and he was good sideline to sideline and change of direction, but setting the edge, that kind of stuff, he was still kind of weak.
Yeah, he probably won't do very well against Trent Williams in the run game, but he might beat him as a pass rusher. Now, obviously, not many players. It's a bad example, but
right.
Yeah, he I really liked him, honestly. He is so explosive. I am so curious to see if he learned how to properly run a 40, like what his time will be, because I think it could be like pretty fast. Because he's I wouldn't doubt that. Maybe not the 4.4 range, but like he's probably going to be low 4.5s. From just what I saw. I mean, he moves, like you said, he moves well. And one thing I noticed, honestly, one he's trying to always gain the upper hand. Like he's always working. That's what I really liked about him. I mean, high motor. But the one thing that I was going to say is he gets attention anytime he plays someone. Yeah. He's getting double teamed a lot, which another thing with Van Ness that I saw that the senior was not getting. Didn't mention that earlier, but same deal with same, like he gets extra attention regardless who they play. He made a bunch of plays where he saw he wasn't, this is just being a good all-around, well-rounded, versatile edge rusher. Okay, I'm not going to make it to the quarterback, gets up and like knocks the ball down or bats it away or tips it up or like. Yeah. So, wait, doesn't he have like a 7-foot wingspan?
Yeah. Yeah, he's up there with Wilson. He's up there with Wilson and Carter. Like their length, their length. Is.
That's what I was thinking. I was like, the whole time we were talking about him, I'm like, doesn't he have a really? And that's at one point I actually Googled it, and I'm like, I don't know what 82 and 3/8 equates to in feet, but I remember now, and one of the last things that I wrote is you can clearly see how he can use that wingspan, and it's evident, dude. It's evident. He plays through the whistle every play, and then I just like how he's always trying to find work. Like he's continuing the progression of his rush. Like constantly. So he's like, okay, cool, I'm at this depth. And then he'll just climb back up the pocket and see if he can find a sack or two. You know what I mean? And like, that's just IQ. And I completely agree. Like he definitely has one of the highest ceilings, I would say, if he can figure out the run game stuff. Yeah. Because
that's why a lot of what you were just saying is a lot of the reason why I like him, because I think he can improve in the run game because of those things. Like you said, because he's got such a high IQ and because he's always working, that I think he's one of those guys that's going to find a way to kind of improve those things and at the very least not be a liability.
Yeah. I think that's entirely fair to say. And again, like he has the potential to be incredible football player. Like he already is an incredible football player, but like at the professional level.
Oh yeah.
Because if he can get all that, if he had slightly better in the run game, he'd probably be my number 2, like you. But he's not. Because I'm just old school, man. I like my edges. I like my edges coming out of, which, I mean, you miss on people like that, but I like edges coming out, being able to, at the very least, but then he's probably going to be like the OJULARI brothers and have 8.5 sacks his rookie year. So
never know.
Do you want a run defender or an instant instant pass rusher? And I don't know. Maybe there's just the Raven in me that wants the the more well-rounded guy. But
fair enough.
I mean, it's not. It's either way. It's not. It's McDonald's a fucking stud, and I was really, 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 really impressed with him because I didn't really know much about him either. Like there were a couple guys on here where I'm like, I haven't really. And you watch the tape and you're like, whoa, like McDonald's. I'm curious to see what he tests doing because I think it could be freaky. And then I
think him and Wilson are going to be those like combine guys.
Yeah, well, because
Wilson, I would say, are pretty like blow the combine up.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah, I mean, so that leaves. I was thinking of someone else outside of the class as a joke. Obviously, Will Anderson's number 1. He is the most well-rounded. He is just
hands down.
His hands are cinder blocks. You know what I mean? He's elite at setting the edge. So at the very worst, he's probably going to be positively graded next year. Like, I know people hate PFF at times, so bear with us when we talk about them in a positive light. But he'll probably have like an 80+ run defense grade coming out to start, and then he's also an incredible pass rusher. Like he's nuts, dude. He has a powerful punch. He's not an OJULARI brother as far as like being refined, but he still has more than enough in the tank to win, you know? And then, I mean, his first step's ridiculous. Stunts wise, he looks like he's played in a Nick Saban defense. And I know it wasn't like, I know Nick Saban's not caught, but like, you know, like those Alabama defenses, he just looks like he looks as advertised, the best player in college football for the past 2 years. You know, he rebounds towards the Mississippi State game. So the Mississippi State game, sorry. He wasn't playing very well, and he rebounded and just started to ball out. So I like that. You know what I mean? Okay, cool. Let me calm down. Let me calm down. Let me just and then he just started to fucking go. I mean, his change of direction, he kind of low-hanging fruit. And I know this will infuriate people, but he kind of reminds me of Von Miller coming out. And I know we talked about that off air. But I mean, I'm sure you're gonna say similar things, but how do you feel about Anderson?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything you had said. There's not a whole lot more to say. I mean, I think people that are saying, you know, people are overreacting with that comp to Von Miller. I think it's the perfect comp for him, and I don't understand why people get so angry about that kind of stuff. A, it's a comp, relax, not that big.
Yeah.
But B, it's most definitely an accurate one, especially since Will Anderson's a lot younger than Von Miller was when Von Miller was coming out. Von Miller was a second overall pick, I believe. And Will Anderson's easily going to be, a 1, 2, or third pick, depending on how all the quarterbacks fall. Obviously, that affects a lot of things. But yeah, I mean, he's elite at every level. He's one of those guys that's just a pure athlete, and it shows. Like you said, he was just always in the backfield, constantly. And when he didn't get the sack or he didn't get to the quarterback, he was on the ball carrier in a hurry. He was in every play. It didn't matter if he got the sack or not. He was in every play. 31 was by that ball no matter what. And, the change of direction was ridiculous because, like, you'd see plays where he'd whiz past the quarterback where you're like, well, that guy's he's not getting back around. And then all of a sudden he's 10 yards up the field catching up to a running back because – his teammates are missing tackles for whatever reason, and he's finishing the play.
Yep.
And like you said, the negatives are just things from him being so young, and there's only so much you can do with the limited games he's gotten in. It's like, needs work on some of his pass rush moves, but the fact that he's just so elite at the point of attack and, the elite change of direction, and he's great. Like you said, he's great against the run and against gap containment. So it's like he gets all of it. You know what I mean? He gets it. So it's like refining all that's going to be a piece of cake when he gets to the NFL because that's all he's going to be doing. He's not going to be needing to be like learning a ton of new stuff. He's just going to be refining the stuff that he already knows and just getting better and better every year with that constant attention from his defensive coaches and just, depending on where he goes, like, I'm sure he's the kind of guy that's just going to leech onto, somebody like a Von Miller or like a Khalil Mack or anybody like that that kind of fits into that prototype of like who he is. He is he is that type of player. And, if he's lucky enough to get into a position where he has one of those guys to work with, I think he's going to be like, blown up in a hurry. But even without that, I think just being in the game, just having to step up even more is just going to refine his game even more. And I would if I were picking number one right now, I wouldn't even be thinking about trading that pick for assets. I would just be like running that card in for him specifically. As much as I love Jalen Carter, I know we're not talking about defensive tackles, but like I would be taking Will Anderson. I don't care that Justin Fields doesn't have enough weapons and there are pieces elsewhere. Whoa. You're not competing this year either way. So no. I would rather get that all pro edge right now.
Yeah, that solution for 10 years. Yeah. And then think about this too, dude. Like Eberflus is the head coach. He loved DeForest Buckner. Oh, yeah. Loved their edge rushers, man. He loved defensive line. Like Eberflus was a guy. So he's going to have a good defensive line coach because he knows how important having a good defensive line is. So like, fuck, Chicago. I'm going to Chicago, dude. Monsters the Midway 2.0 or 3.0 because I guess Khalil Mack and those boys called themselves the Monsters of the Midway.
Did they?
I think so. But there was a random executive not on Twitter, but like someone quoted him on Twitter, and I guess he was saying like, "Oh, Will Anderson seemed lazy this year," and it's like I don't know how you watch even a half of Will Anderson tape and come away with him being lazy, dude. Because like you said earlier, he is by the ball.
I haven't seen any of that.
Every fucking down. It was probably some, the anonymous exec. It's all that bullshit that pops up. It's like, okay, like this is nonsense. But
somebody that wants him to drop.
Dude, and it's like they're talking about trading Justin Fields and drafting Bryce Young, and it's like, what?
Why? Bryce
Young's going to be great, I'm sure, but Justin Fields could be special if you get like, come on.
I would understand if Bryce Young was a generational talent.
Yeah,
I would understand.
If it was Caleb Williams next year. If this was next year and Caleb Williams was number 1, I would strongly consider
consider it, yeah.
Justin Fields, and you know what I mean? And even then, it's like, you know, or like Drake May, it's like, oh yeah, and Bryce Young isn't either of those talents, you know? Caleb Williams is a distributor just like Bryce Young is. And he's, what, 6'4", 240 or something? It's like, or 230. Yep. It's like, unfortunately for Bryce Young, and that's no slight, because he could very well be Drew Brees 2.0. He could be, as everyone's calling him, the Steph Curry. But it's just like, I mean, the only thing I would say is you trade to 3 in the hopes that 1 and 2 are quarterbacks, right? That's the only thing I would only be interested in listening to the 3rd pick if I was the Bears. Because there's a chance that you still get Will Anderson. But that's my main focus, is getting Will Anderson. Because Jalen Carter is a beast, but Will Anderson's... I mean, there's a reason why he's the consensus number 1 edge on everyone's board. On, you know, any team in the NFL would love to have him. But...
Absolutely.
But yeah, that rounds out. Or actually, no, we have some other guys. So the guys we left,
got 3 other guys we didn't talk about.
Yeah, the guys we left off the list. Well, I left Will McDonald off the list, which is a very contrarian take.
I should say the guys we didn't talk about from our 2 lists.
No, I'm just
collectively. Collectively. So we got Murphy, Carter, and Harrison.
Murphy, Carter, well, Morris too, from Michigan.
Well, Morris was on my list.
Oh, that's right.
Remember?
That's right. He was your 5.
I'm
so sorry. I have a good. You guys will start to realize that I have an impeccable memory. Steel trap, they say. Yeah, Morris was your 5. Yeah. So Murphy, Harrison, and Andre Carter. Murphy, his flashes make sense why people have him so high, but it's very few and far between, his flashes.
Yeah.
I mean, he sets the edge well, and he does have like good eyes in the backfield and on run plays and stuff like that, but he's got a great long arm. But obviously needs other moves. His first steps.
Right.
I mean, I see why, but it's just not my. I see why, but it's not my style. I don't think he's very refined at all in run or pass rushing or run defense, but he seems to play a little high, and Michael Mayer was his dad the last time they played, because that was...
I'm so mad I didn't watch that game.
Dude, you almost should. Well, obviously, when we're going on the tight end.
I'll have to go back and watch that.
We'll do tight end.
Yeah, that's right. Yep. When we get to Mayer, I'll watch that one.
Yes, you need to, because he
can't wait.
Which speaks more to Mayer than obviously Murphy. And Mayer is great.
Right.
I get he's a good tight end, but I just don't think someone who should be... I mean, people were talking about him in like the top 10, and it's like, oof, that's just rich for my blood for someone who gets bodied by a tight end. So, and that's
if he wasn't such a bull, I would like it would be less hurtful to his stock if he wasn't such a bull, and was like, if it were like Will McDonald or OJULARI or somebody like that, that's like more of that speed edge rush guy.
Yeah,
it wouldn't be as hurtful. But the fact that he's just this big, aggressive, just bull. I mean, he's just a big, aggressive dude, and like the fact that Mayer could handle him so well Which he even like Mayer's a decent sized tight end, but he's not the biggest tight end out there. You know, it's not it's Darnell Washington.
No, he's not 275. Mayer's probably like 250.
Right, he's nowhere near that.
You know what? Probably, I'm going to look it up. Please continue with that thought.
Yeah, no. But I agree with you. I just don't see. There weren't enough flashes for me to be like, oh, okay, I see this. I see the ceiling that they're looking at. Like, I see some of what they're talking about with like the Rashawn Gary comparisons. He's really aggressive. He's got great hands. He's got the bull rush. But like when he missed big. Like he just poor change of direction, and he was just awful in open space. I don't think I saw him make any tackles anywhere outside of the box. You know what I mean? So it's just like a guy like that. It's not gonna be enough.
Just
for me. At least.
No, and again, like if he went 20 to 31, am I poo-pooing that pick? No, I don't. Yeah. I don't particularly care. That's just how I feel if I were to want to draft an edge rusher. Now, if we're talking about in the second round, third round, like, should he go in the third round? Probably not. Second round, like, if it was the high second round, I just like, again, I'm a little old school. I like well-rounded players, and I just don't think he's particularly good in either. I mean, he's decent in run defense, but like, he's not very refined.
Right.
As a pass rusher, and he is a good, like, again, good long arm, really good long arm, and a really good bull rush. But when you got tackles like Stanley and Mailata, and you know what I mean, like Trent Williams, obviously, insert not Jason Peters. I'm sorry. Eagles right tackle. You know what I'm saying. When you have large humans like that are just Lane Johnson. I don't know how I forgot that, but
Andrew Thomas.
Yeah, I mean Andrew Thomas was he was the MVP of the Dancing Bears this year. Your boy. That's the best thing Gettleman ever did for you guys.
Yeah. And
everyone was talking shit. And yeah, it's so funny. What do you little sidebar? I know people tend to like this. Actually, we'll go over that at the end or at a different time. But Zach Harrison, I wasn't particularly impressed.
Nope.
He's kind of just another one of those. It's the height in this class is ridiculous. I know we were talking a little bit about that before. I mean, 6'7", 6'6", 6'6", 6'6", 6'5", 6'5". You know, Will McDonald, Ojulari, and Anderson are short at 6'3". But Harrison, I just wasn't very impressed, to be honest. He's not. Likewise. He's not good from a 2-point stance. He's hand in the dirt kind of guy. He is strong at the point of attack. Like, so he's going to be, if you want an edge rusher to set the edge, and you know what I mean? Like that's about all he can do. And actually you were talking about your team. Ohio State Buckeyes. So
that's not my team.
That's right. It's the ladies' team.
No,
but I mean, you feel free to elaborate. I think we feel similarly about it.
I'm with you on that. I wasn't all that impressed. I don't have a ton of notes because there just wasn't a ton to go off of. I mean, he's a massive human being, obviously. Like you said, this whole class is just filled with massive human beings. But he's got a ton of power in his body and his hands. He's above average at setting the edge, which, will translate to the next level. But he's just not a good edge rusher. Poor edge rusher. He's awkward at the point of attack and against blockers. he just doesn't look like he has a plan. He needs to use his power more instead of getting cute. Like it seemed like he was trying to get cute at times and start doing like moves and stuff when it's just like he should probably be one of those guys that's bull rushing, kind of like Murphy and Van Ness. Like he should be utilizing his leverage and that power and the size, because he's a huge edge rusher, and he could easily improve on that if he just took advantage of that and just used that power and the size and who he is and just use that straight line. I mean, he's not fast, so it's not like his straight line speed, but he is an athlete. So it's like he could easily work on that bull rush and work on the leverage portion of it and produce at least a little bit. But I don't see that right now, and that's why I kind of think he's more of just a run defending edge, just to set the edge and kind of contain.
Yeah, just do the
which isn't bad. It's just not a.
No, yeah, I would be surprised if he went anywhere near the first round. To be honest,
yeah, he's definitely a third or fourth.
That's kind of what you said it, not me. He's gonna get mad at you and not me. No, I don't know. He doesn't have good timing when we're talking about snap counts. Like he doesn't, which makes him look slow or sluggish. It's like sometimes, like you said, he looks late. He looks late to the party, and then when he gets to the point where he needs to make a decision, he doesn't. Yeah, he just doesn't look like he has a plan. And yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with, like, he's going to the NFL. He played at Ohio State. Like, he's going to be an NFL player. And again, we're just two dudes who like football and enjoy it very much so. So much so we feel the need to watch a ton of film on people. Yeah. So just want to lay that out. We're just two fans. You know what I mean? Breaking down film. These are our opinions.
We're getting that much more knowledgeable every day.
Yeah, like at the end of the day, we'll never be in the NFL at that capacity. So, but in my opinion, I don't see a very high ceiling. You see the floor. The floor is very evident. He's gonna probably play in the NFL for a long time. But I don't see him. I don't see him becoming something special. Which is a good segue, because our next guy and last guy, Andre Carter. You actually think, not saying that I don't think he has potential, but you think he has a lot more potential than actually, like, would you say he's not, I don't want to say sleeper pick because he could go in the first, but would you say he's your...
I would say he's a sleeper. Yeah. I don't think he's going to go in the first, to be honest with you.
Okay.
I really don't think he's going to end up being a first pick. But honestly, I think he could end up being a first-round quality player in the long term. I think he is obviously a project, just because, he's coming from Army. They don't typically play a ton of high-end competition. They've got very little competition in their schedule. So it's just one of those things. But as far as him being a prospect, he's incredibly smooth and agile. He's got that ideal length for the position. He's another one that's enormous. He's 6'7", 270. The service duty portion of with him, I think, is a big thing, because it could have limited like some of that muscle mass and some of the strength that he'll then be able to grow when he does get to the NFL. We can just focus purely on that when he's excused, because he will be, because he started before, all those things set in place. So when he's with an NFL program, I think that's going to really help, because I think the only negatives are really the things that, like, he'll be able to learn when he's in a full-on NFL program, because it's the lack of mass and lack of size for the position. Hands aren't great, and he gets lost in the run game sometimes. But I think that's all stuff that he can learn, because he's pretty young too, and I think he can learn a lot from an actual program, because this isn't a knock on Army, because it's just, but they don't have the coaching staff that a lot of these other guys have. So if you take a prospect like Andre Carter and you put him with an LSU, with a Texas Tech, with Michigan, whatever, he'd probably be a first round pick, realistically, if he was in that position. And that's why I'm kind of so high on him. I do have him ranked at the bottom end of my top 10, but
yeah,
I had a really hard time not forcing him closer to my top 5, just because I liked what I saw so much. I liked how much of an athlete he was and how smooth, and the IQ, the IQ's there too.
Well, so his only issue is that his floor is quite low. Like he might not be very good at all. But
there's a lot of them.
Literally could. Will Anderson may not pan out. You know what I mean? For a litany of different reasons. Right. But he does have, and I do agree with you, he does have a pretty high ceiling with everything that you already laid out. And then also, like, when you just watch his tape, like, he has a pretty good club rip. He obviously he could use some work on his moves, but like he's not Harrison. You know what I mean? Like you can see, and there's times where he makes a play, and if that's instinctual, it's like, oh, great. Like you said, when he gets into an NFL program and he's working with insert name of defensive line coach, NFL defensive line coach here, like anything's going to be an upgrade from Army. Sorry, Uncle Justin. No slight. Like we said, it's just y'all are in LSU, y'all are in Alabama. You know what I mean? I don't know the last time that they produced a draft pick, especially one that potentially will go in the first round. Maybe not produced a draft pick. That might be a little harsh, but I don't think they've ever had a first round draft pick. And I believe Andre Carter would be the first.
Yeah.
Let me double check that. But I completely agree, dude. He has, like, so you have to be smart to go to Army, right?
Yeah.
Like that's the thing. Sorry. List of Army Black Knights in the NFL. Oh, yeah, so they have. It's just been a very, very, very long time. The last one was Tex DeWitt Eccles, Tex Coulter by the Chicago Cardinals, an offensive tackle. And that was in 47. So it's been a while. Look at that. The more you know. Knowledge is power. So that would be the first round pick since
almost 80 years.
Time. Yeah. But yeah, he has a very, very, very high ceiling. I think he could end up being one of the better edge rushers in this class. In 5 years, if he's able to maybe add, because he plays a little high. And then again, it's just like, it's hard to gauge because he doesn't, like, you see Will Anderson and you're like, okay, that's a Georgia offensive tackle. You know what I mean? Or like you see some of these other guys and you're like McDonald. That's why I was like, oh shit, McDonald's doing this on Big Ten tackles? Like, yeah, like, you know, like I watched Iowa. Iowa always has good offensive linemen. You know, Shout out Tyler Lindenbaum. Kid's a fucking stud. Just pumping out good tackles. But yeah, I think this is going to be a good class. As we both have said before.
Yeah.
The gap between 1 and 2 to 10 it's pretty, but that's not to say that any of these other guys aren't going to be solid Pro Bowl or even all pro caliber players. It's just It's Will Anderson and everyone else.
For sure.
And that's all about kind of what flavor you like, for lack of a better term. But that wraps up this episode of the 2023 draft class for the edge position. Look at that. I did it good. I did it this time instead of just fumbling everything. But yeah, I appreciate you guys watching, and we will have a episode. Oh, that's it. That's right. Good podcasting. Next episode will be wide receivers. We're going to be breaking down our top 10 wide receivers. Yes.
Heck
yes.
Yeah. Looking forward to this one.
Yeah, definitely. I'm excited. And yeah, hope you guys have a good weekend. And thank you all for watching.
Thank you for watching.
Oh no.